welcome to another episode of Brown Girls Are Beautiful. I am your melanated queen. Shout out to me, shout out to all of my subscribers. Thank you for those who have joined. Finally, as promised, am presenting to you the PowerPoint slide that I promised you all. And I have figured out somewhat on how to get the sound going and present my presentation and share my screen with you all. So hopefully no one sends me any text messages because they may show up here. But nonetheless, we shall continue and move right along, you all. So what I wanted to discuss with this whole situation that has come upon us is, of course, we're faced with COVID, and it's causing so many different situations to take place. We are seeing people going out to the stores wearing face masks. Stores are requiring people to wear face masks, even though it's not a law put in place stating that you have to wear face masks. This is a form of social submission. People are in their cars wearing face masks. Why are they doing that in the comfort of their own cars and even in the comfort of their own homes? I have no idea. They're coming on camera showing us at home they're wearing a face mask. What is the point? I don't get it. Okay, so there you see a bunch of sheep that flock along with the herd. Okay, and if you choose not to follow suit, then I guess you're considered to be a rebel. Okay, so that is one thing that we are all taking into consideration and we're taking notice. Let's move along to slide number 2. And what do we have here? As we pull back the curtains, you guessed it, you all, Hollywood celebrity fakers. And I am showing you right here everyone's melanated sensation, Idris Elba. Yes, he too. Remember when he came back in March or April and said, I tested positive for corona. You know, he sounded like he was proud of it. All right, so let's hear what he had to say, you all. Let's hear what Idris Elba had to say about having the coronavirus.
So look, this morning I got some test results back for coronavirus and it came back positive. Yeah, and it sucks. Listen, I'm doing okay. Sabrina hasn't been tested and she's doing okay. I didn't have any symptoms. I got tested because I realized I was exposed to someone who had also tested positive. I found out last Friday that they were tested positive. I quarantined myself and got a test immediately and got the results back today. Look, this is serious, you know. Now's the time to really think about social distancing, washing your hands. Beyond that, there are people out there who aren't showing symptoms and that can easily spread it, okay? So now's a real time to be really vigilant about.
All right, I think you've heard enough, okay, as his wife sits there proactively nodding her head back and forth. And then if you recall, not too long after this, she came out and was tested positive as well. So if this situation is so dire, why is she sitting up under him like this? And Cardi B already said that she feels that the celebrities are being paid to say they have it. Tom Hanks came out. We all know they're part of the agenda. So miss us with all of that, okay? Miss us with it. All right, we're going to try to go on to the next slide, you all, because we've had enough of the shenanigans. What do we have next? Okay, another faker, you all. We have crisis actors, and I'm going to let you hear this. He even looks like he's faking. Look at this. This is coming from Inside Edition.
This dad, just released from quarantine, wanted everyone to know he was doing just fine. But watch what happens as he and his 5-year-old daughter appear on Fox News.
It is contagious, but the death rate is pretty low.
Frank Wusinski and little Annabelle spent 2 weeks in quarantine after returning from Wuhan, China, where his father-in-law died of coronavirus.
Excuse me.
Now, Frank can't stop coughing, so he takes a swig from his daughter's water bottle, hands it back, and she continues to drink from it. Uh-oh.
The cough, probably just nerves.
He appeared on TV to reassure people about coronavirus, but it backfired because of that coughing fit.
Frank, thank you.
Video of the interview is going viral amid worldwide anxiety as the coronavirus spreads across.
All right, and I'm going to stop it right there, you all. First of all, if you have been exposed to corona, why are you sitting up under your daughter, contaminating her, coughing over her? Okay, if this thing is this serious. And then secondly, you're going to drink from the same water bottle? That's nasty. We don't know where his mouth has been, okay? Thirdly, what cough do you know exists because of nerves? Do people cough because they're nervous? I've never heard of this. These are the shenanigans that they're playing with these crisis actors, you all. I mean, and it's basically, like I said, an insult on people's intelligence. Let's move along. Let's move this curtain back. Here we have Dr. Shiva, you all. Dr. Shiva is a PhD graduate. He studied at MIT. He suggests vitamin D, you all. And he states that masks aren't necessary. So let's hear what he has to say.
People making these makeshift homemade masks and literally putting their lives in the hands of these masks and gloves. How well do these actually work? And you touched on it just briefly, but what is the real solution to coronavirus?
Look, the real solution, Christina, as any solution to any pathogen, we need to understand that the medical establishment, the pharmaceutical medical establishment for hundreds of years has built its entire foundation of always blaming a virus or a germ. Always. So when scurvy came around, remember scurvy when people's teeth would fall out and they had bleeding gums? Oh, it must be a virus. Well, it was deficiency in vitamin C 100 years later, when even people on the ground knew it. When pellagra came out, which was when people's skin and everything would get all dry, horribly dry, and like eczema, ultimate conditions. Oh, it must be the Italians who are coming over the ship. They're bringing some dirty germs, and we need to quarantine them. Well, it turned out it was a deficiency in niacin, so on. So what we're seeing here is the virus hunters, the bacterial hunters creating fear. So the real solution is, number one, is to recognize that the immune system is quite strong. We're actually a walking ecosystem of germs, 380 trillion viruses, 60 trillion bacteria among the 6 trillion cells. There's viruses all around us. The reality is a strong immune system always handles this beautifully. It's the weakened immune system. So all those masks and all this stuff, people didn't wear this for humanity, okay? The issue is, how do you beef up the immune system? As I wrote to the president, vitamin D. Vitamin D is an antimicrobial. Why do you think in many of these hot countries we don't hear any about this? Vitamin A, which is all from the rich leafy green, dark green vegetables and fruits. That supports your body to create keratin, cytokeratins through vitamin A, which protects your cells. So these are the two foundation pillars. Yet Fauci and Briggs do not talk anything about that, because a V in vitamin is an anathema for their vaccines. And same with the V in vitamin C is an anathema for their ventilators. You see, it's ventilators and vaccines. Yeah. And this is big pharma. And these guys need to be fully exposed. And in my view, people like Fauci need to be indicted for a lot of serious scientific crimes. That's why when we put out this petition, Fire Fauci, I think close to 50,000 people have signed it in 48 hours. And at least we have close to 1,000 medical doctors from all over the world. Everyday people get this. In fact, the unfortunate handcuffed medical professionals get this. This is an opportunity, a huge opportunity, Christina. The real solution is for us to rethink how much governance and how much over-respect we give to MDs who unfortunately know nothing about the immune system. They don't study that in medical college or medical school.
All right, you all, and there you have it. It's coming from Dr. Shiva himself, PhD graduate, studied at MIT. He just stated that a lot of people who have an MD in front of their name, they do not study the immune system. And so for Dr. Fauci to be the leading director of immunology, this is quite sad that he's pushing these vaccinations, and we already know the agenda behind that. Okay, let's move along, you all. Now we're going to get into Dr. Fauci and his credentials, okay? So Dr. Fauci stated no vaccine is definitive to be proven to work in this juncture of the coronavirus. And he also stated there would be no vaccine by this summer. So let's see how this changes because summer is quickly approaching, you all. And if you all are familiar, he did an interview with the Breakfast Club. I'm sure that video has gone viral by now. When this first came out, I wanted to speak on it, but I did not have the capabilities to share this with you all, and I didn't want to hold my phone up to the camera. I wanted you to actually be able to witness for yourselves exactly what was going on in this interview. So let's begin.
Without compromising the study, but there's no way we're going to have a vaccine this summer. At best, it'll be for next winter.
What about this drug that they've been talking about, remdesivir?
Wake that ass up.
All right, so some key points here. Remdesivir is approved by the Federal Drug Administration, but the Food and Drug Administration has granted emergency use authorization for Gilead's remdesivir drug to treat the coronavirus. President Donald Trump announced this, and whenever this was on a Friday. Trump also made the announcement in the Oval Office alongside Gilead CEO Daniel O'Day. The EUA means that remdesivir has not undergone the same level of review as an FDA-approved treatment, according to a fact sheet from the agency about the drug. Okay, so you may have heard, let me go back here. Let me go back because I wanted you to hear what Angela Yee was going to ask when she mentioned remdesivir. So let's go back, and I'm going to let that play for you all so you can hear his response to her question.
Without compromising the study, but there's no way we're going to have a vaccine this summer. At best, it'll be for next winter.
What about this drug that they've been talking about, remdesivir? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but they're saying there's this experimental drug called remdesivir or something that could actually really help with the treatment.
Yeah, good for you. No, it is remdesivir. You pronounced it absolutely correctly. So the situation is that there are a number of drugs that are in clinical trials right now. None of them have been proven definitively to be effective in coronavirus disease. When we get the results of the clinical trials, I mean, there are a lot of people out there, understandably, who say we have nothing to offer. Let's give this drug or let's give that drug. I heard that it works. That's not the way it works in science. Hearing that something works doesn't mean you've proven that it works. And that's the reason why we insist on doing randomized controlled trials. And as soon as we get the data that proves that it works, you let everybody know about it and you let it be available. But you don't want somebody taking a drug that somebody kind of has a feeling that it works when it really doesn't.
Okay, I just wanted to make a comment about this. When Angela Yee mentioned remdesivir, he basically sarcastically gave her a backhanded compliment. I don't know if you all caught on to that, but his words to her were "good for you," as if saying, "Good girl, you've done some research. You actually have a valid question." Because as we further explored this interview, we're going to see the antics that were being played. I wanted to say that if you had someone such as one of the leading people on the task force that advises the president and affects the entire nation's health based on the decisions that he makes, he is the I think he's like the director of immunology, if I'm not mistaken. But for someone of his magnitude, I would think that they would be far more prepared for this interview. And it seemed like they were all basically fighting for questions to ask. So why did they not have a consecutive answers or consecutive turns that were delegated to all of them before the interview started? They should have had better preparation, in my opinion. All right, so we're just going to move right along here and go to the next slide. All right, so I did read over what remdesivir does and the fact that it had been approved by the FDA. All right, but he just said that they were not going to explore that because they weren't sure if it actually worked, but yet it had been approved. Now, Dr. Fauci advises to wear face masks, where we just heard Dr. Shiva tell us that it would not be advantageous to wear the face masks. So I'll let you hear it for yourselves.
Washing hands carefully, wearing masks. Doesn't have to be an N95 or surgical mask, but just a cloth covering. So even though there are people coming in, they've got to make sure, and that's really, if you look at those guidelines carefully, it isn't, okay, guys, everything is open, let's do it. There's still a lot of restrictions, even in the areas where they have already taken those first steps towards opening.
I wanted to ask about some of the effects after you've had coronavirus, whether you got not diagnosed with it or you self-quarantined.
All right, so Angela Yee is trying to ask another question. Let's move along here, because this was very interesting. All right, and I thought this was, it's not a laughing matter. It's actually quite embarrassing, but they ended up getting into the topic of sports being essential. They spoke about the Sexiest Man of the Year award, and then they talked about building up the immune system, which we just heard one of the doctors tell us what we could do to do that. And Dr. Fauci goes against that. And there was no follow-up to challenge his answers. None whatsoever, you all. Listen to this.
Now, I was asking, people love their sports, and, people have been asking, they even said that wrestling is essential in Florida. Now, do you agree with that? I mean, because that's what they said. And also, is it safe to open up these sports? Is wrestling essential?
No, I'm not a wrestling fan. I'm a baseball fan.
What was so funny about that? And why was this an essential question to ask? That's what I would say. You have something that is supposed to be this serious, this dire, this threatening to the entire world, and you're asking about sports? This is not a representation of us all. And he brags about going to Hampton University. Is this the best that Hampton has to offer? I would pose that question, because if so, it is an insult to the administration, the staff there, and some of the students. Let's go along to 1931, you all, and hear the question that Angela Yee wanted to ask. And I believe Angela Yee is in her early 40s at this point, asking these questions. So let's hear what she felt the need to ask Dr. Fauci, one of the leading people on the coronavirus task force that was help aiding and assisting the president in the nation, who was actually coming in front of us every single day on the TV. This is the question that she felt was important.
To Dr. Fauci specials and restaurants. I see they're talking about making you the sexiest.
It's absolutely zero. Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about all of this newfound fame for yourself? I see the Dr. Fauci bobbleheads. I see they have all kinds of Dr. Fauci specials and restaurants. I see they're talking about making you the sexiest man alive and things like that. How is that affecting you?
To be quite honest with you, I don't pay attention to that. I know people probably find that hard to believe. I mean, it just, to me, talks about how surreal this whole thing is, how involved the American public is in this I just focus on my job. It's like a 19, 20 hour a day job. It's kind of interesting that people are doing that, but I just can't get distracted by that. I mean, if it does something good, some of those things are raising money to do research, to get personal protective equipment, all that stuff. If they do that, that's fine. But the other stuff, I really have to just focus on my job.
Now you heard his answer. Even he is saying that he does not have time to focus on these antics, okay? As the I guess, the nation's leading director of immunology. Why would he have time to focus on that? And why was that an important question to ask? Especially with an epidemic, an alleged epidemic that we're facing. Let's go on to 2022 because this is where it gets very interesting, you all.
Gotcha. Now, from hearing from you, Doctor, I was going to ask, for people out there, they hear so many different things. What can people do to prevent this from catching this besides washing hands? And what can they do to build up their immune system if people are concerned with catching it? Like, what can honest, regular people do to protect themselves?
Okay. About 30 days ago, or a little bit less, we put together those guidelines about simple things that people can do right now, particularly if you are in an area where there is a density of infection, anywhere near New York, anywhere near New Orleans, Detroit, et cetera, is to practice simple things. And you said several of them yourself. Washing hands, keeping as much physical distance as you can. 6 feet is pretty safe. Stay out of crowds that are more than 10 individuals, and try and get work. If you can do work from distance, like teleworking, do it. If you can't and you need to be in society, just wear a protective clothing that would essentially be a functionally equivalent of a mask. About building up your immune system, there are very few things, if any, to be honest with you, even though there's so many things out there on the drugstore shelves, this herb, that herb, there's no proof that any of them work. The one way you can do it, instead of building up your immune system, try and make sure your immune system isn't worn down. And you can do that by simple things. Good night's sleep, exercise, good nutrition. That's infinitely better than trying to throw something into your body that's going to, quote, boost your immune system.
Okay, so I just took issue with several things that he just stated, and I'm sure you all have as well. And if this is coming from an alleged doctor with someone of his credentials, he just said sleep, exercise, and diet. Is that not what the doctor says whenever you're sick, whenever you're down with any type of sickness and disease? They always say get plenty of rest, watch what you eat, get plenty of vitamin C. That goes into your diet. So if you take a vitamin C supplement or vitamins, is that not helpful to putting it inside of your immune system to help build it or boost it up? He just contradicted himself. And then if you want to throw things in your immune system to build it up and they're saying that it's not proven to work, how is it that they're throwing vaccinations our way that are not proven to work? So that is another contradiction. But yet and still there was no follow-up to his question. No follow-up to his answer. Do you know what the next question was? They completely ignored all of the contradictories that he just shared with them. It's like it went over their head, they ignored it, and maybe they were just so excited to have him on the platform that they wanted to chuckle and giggle their way along the interview. But this is not a laughing nor is it a joking matter when you have someone with his credentials making health decisions for the entire nation, okay? Them included.
Yeah, I know you got to go, so I got one last question. And I got to salute you because I love the way that you highlighted the impact that coronavirus was having on the Black community. And, you can't talk about that without, talking about the pre-existing medical conditions, how we have less access to health care. And we can't talk about it without talking about the greatest disease America has never found a cure for, which is systemic racism. How do we fix that?
Why are we asking Dr. Fauci, an immunologist, about racism? I'm sure he knows that it exists. At this point, there's not a person on this planet who is not privy that racism exists. But is this his specialty? No, it is not. Nor is it an expertise of his in his field. This man is supposed to be a doctor. He's supposed to be advising the president in the coronavirus, and you're asking him about racism. And then he talks about African Americans being affected the most. So what type of statistics are they basing that upon? Are they basing that upon the fact that they're testing more African Americans? Are more African Americans being injected or infected with this virus? So we cannot take this as a factual statement. And it is a lot of there are a lot of issues. I take a lot of issue with the way that these questions were posed in this interview, you all. So just be very mindful when you're dealing with the media, because as you can see, it is steering and it is basically not coming from an objective point of view. And everybody knows that in journalism, you're supposed to be objective, and this was clearly not the case here. So I'm gonna end it with that, and we're gonna move along, you all. All right, so then we have falsified COVID diagnosis, my apologies. Let's hear what Dr. Rashid Buttar had to say.
Death count numbers are coming under heavy scrutiny, especially because doctors across the nation have come forward and they're starting to reveal that they're being pressured to classify all deaths as coronavirus deaths, even if the person didn't die from coronavirus. I want you to listen to just a few sound bites of doctors talking about this and one health department director. And again, this is just a few of many. Take a listen.
When I'm writing up my death report, I'm being pressured to add COVID. Why is that? Why are we being pressured to add COVID to maybe increase the numbers and make it look a little bit worse than it is? I think so.
If you were in hospice and had already been given, a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, that would be counted as a COVID death. It means that even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death.
I received an email last week from the Department of Health coaching me on how to fill out death certificates. They were saying, you don't have to have a confirmed laboratory test for COVID-19 in order to make the death certificate be COVID-19.
What are your thoughts on this, Dr. Buttar? Are the death count cases, the numbers being inflated? Are these accurate death counts?
The death counts that have been reported about COVID-19 from the get-go were fraudulent. I had said that publicly. I think that's the reason that these videos that we put out got so much traction. YouTube started censoring my videos. The first one, COVID-19 conspiracy ? Facts versus fiction. And the second one, toxicology ignored. Those two they left up. But the third one, which I outlined the corrupted science. The fourth one, when I started talking about some of the technology that's causing an exacerbation of the COVID-19. And the fifth one, deceptive agenda. When they hit 1 million views within 24 to 48 hours, they censored those videos, Facebook and YouTube. And basically, I exposed these numbers. We were talking about these numbers. Right now, as of 36 hours ago, I had a call with a friend of mine who said that his friend's son, 17-year-old, committed suicide. And they ruled his suicide as COVID-19. And that may sound ridiculous, but it's become a meme now. You fall out of a plane without a parachute, cause of death, COVID-19. You get shot in the head, cause of death, COVID-19. They cannot inflate the numbers enough to come even close to justifying why they've done this. So the numbers themselves didn't show it. Then they started inflating the numbers, and with inflation, they can't show those numbers. The point is this. The studies go all the way back to 1984 that show that people, that with the mouse model, with the rat model, with the cat model, and then with human studies, that people that received the COVID and flu shot are testing false positive for COVID-19. I don't believe those are false positives. I believe those are accurate tests because of the past vaccinations that people have gotten that are now showing positive for COVID-19. We were injected with things that were positive for this type of a chimeric derivative. My question very simply is this. I want to see the data that shows the people that have been attributed to COVID-19 deaths. How many of them had the H1N1 flu shot? How many had the covalent flu shot? How many had the trivalent flu shot? How many had other adult vaccines? Because then you'll start seeing a pattern that this was an introduction of A, B, C, and D, and now with one final trigger that's causing these people to die, attributing it to COVID-19, whereas in fact COVID-19 is probably the entire world's population has been exposed to it, but nobody's dying from it. Virtually nobody's died from it, and anybody that has died from it has died with significant comorbidity.
And see, that was my question, and you answered. What?
All right, coming straight from the doctor's mouth, you all, test results of COVID, the deaths are being exaggerated, are being embellished. So once again, you have it. They're doing a lot of trickery, and a lot of people are complicit in this situation. And now we're going to go to another COVID crisis actor, you all. This is so blatant, and it is an insult on the public's intelligence. Look at this nonsense, you all. I want you to see and witness this for yourselves. And many of you may have already seen this clip.
I know you're heartbroken. I know you are heartbroken. But you know what? People need to see what is being taken from us from this virus. Your husband had already fought through the battles he was supposed to fight. He beat cancer twice. And he was there trying to help everybody else. And people have to know how far our heroes are willing to go. Because your heartbreak will never be over. But we can do things to make sure that other doctors don't have to deal with it, Deborah. And I'm sure that if the doctor were here, Dr. Gabriel would be saying, you can't put people in this situation. We got to care more about the people we call our heroes, Deborah.
Absolutely. Frank put people first, whether it was his coworkers or the patient. He felt that.
I don't even feel the need to play any more of this nonsense and this drama. You could clearly see that the woman right there was trying to hold back her laughter. She had a big smirk across her face. This man had no tears, and this one is a complete crisis. He's an actor, you all. Point blank and period. And then when you try to let people know the truth, they will attack you. I actually got attacked by a so-called, I'm going to call him a melanated male. I'm not even going to call him a king or a man, because a man does not insult, nor does a man attack a female for just documenting the truth, posting clips online that I've seen from other sites that are basically opening up the public's eye to what's really going on. And I didn't even give him any attention. He was just blocked from off of my page, you all. But I'm going to go ahead and press play here because I want you to hear what this guy is stating. So just a second.
Remember, a very special man. His name is Dr. Frank Gabriel. Now, Frank was an ER doctor and two-time cancer survivor, so he knew how to fight. And he spent his final days tending to patients in a New Jersey hospital. When he was there, he knew he was compromised, he knew he was exposed, and he caught the virus himself. He died within a week, passing away on Tuesday in his husband's arms before help could arrive. Dr. Gabriel's husband, Arnold Vargas, is with us, along with their close friend.
Why does he sound like he's reading from a dramatic theatric script, a playwright? I'm not buying any of this, and it is sad that this is what they're presenting to the public. If you notice, that alleged doctor looked significantly older than this guy. He actually looked like his husband. So not only are they pushing the COVID agenda, they're pushing the gay agenda, you all. And this is not even believable by any means whatsoever. Let's move right along. And this has become a police state of life as it relates to COVID, you all. And many of us may or may not have seen this clip, but this is coming out of China, as your President Donald Trump would say, China. So let me let this play. When we first saw it, we started laughing, but this is not a laughing matter. These SWAT team exercises were put in place around the beginning stages of COVID, and probably before they actually released COVID to the public. This is out in China once again, you all. So just look at this. And as you can see, these are the training exercises out in China, okay? They tackled this man down with a fishnet and detained him. All because of what? Because they suspected him of having the COVID. Is this something that we want implemented over here in the United States, in America? Because as we all know, China is a communist country. Come on now. We can clearly see the antics that are going on. Sad. This is sad. Okay? And we will get into your alleged Bill of Rights, but I'm going to stop it here. I'm not going to carry this PowerPoint on any longer. I will come back with part 2, and then we'll get into our constitutional alleged rights, you all. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention. Shout out to all my melanated kings. Shout out to all my melanated queens. Stay the beauties that you are. Stay the warriors that we need you to be out there. Take care of these little princesses and princes out here. Keep them well educated and keep yourself abreast with knowledge. Thank you so much. Everybody stay blessed, stay abundant, and stay prosperous. Until next time.